So during my MCU rewatch, I am now at the stage where I've seen the entirety of the Iron Man trilogy. And now that I've seen the entirety of the Iron Man trilogy is the perfect time to rank the Iron Man trilogy. Now, the Iron Man trilogy is one of the more controversial franchises in the MCU. Some people absolutely love, and the ones that some people love, some people hate, and vice versa. And I fall right down the middle. Some of those movies I absolutely adore. Is one of the most hated movies in the MCU. But with all that said, let's get started off with talking with number 3. And to continue on what I just said, that some movies some people absolutely love and some people absolutely hate, and I'm right down the middle. I don't love this, I don't hate this. I just think Iron Man 2 is an absolute mess. It's got so many storylines telling all these different stories that don't really blend together well. You've got the introduction to Black Widow, you got to kind of set up to the Avengers, you got the real proper introduction to War Machine. We've seen Colonel Rhodes, but now we get to see War Machine. We got Justin Hammer, we got Whiplash, we got Iron Man trying to solve out the problem with his arc reactor. Just so much is happening, and because so much is happening, a lot of the storylines don't really come together. Like Iron Man for the majority of the movie is just trying to work out what is happening with his arc reactor, and as that's happening we get kind of the Justin Hammer and the Whiplash storyline, and at this whole time Iron Man thinks Whiplash is dead, so he's not really trying to work towards stopping him. So the whole middle of the act movie is not really going anywhere because so many different things happening, so you can't really get involved in the movie. The final action scene isn't anything great. It's just Iron Man fighting a lot of kind of Iron Man bots, so it's not really that interesting. The only actual interesting fight scene I would say is the race car scene, but also I do like the scene between Iron Man versus War Machine. And coming in at number 2, I have Iron Man 1. Now, a lot of people would have this as their favourite. A lot of people would actually, some people will have this as their favourite MCU movie. For me personally, I love this movie. I think it's great. It's just not number 1. It's got great moments. We get the introduction to Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. plays him phenomenally well. He actually is Tony Stark to me. We get to kind of build up, seeing him build his armor, not only in the cave, which I love the cave sequence of him actually building the first Iron Man armor, but also when he's building the Mark II, and you see him going through, he's sitting there watching TV as he's building the arm, he's building the legs, we see him his first flight, all of it is just great. The one downside that I have to this is the villain of Obadiah Stane. I think he's great as the villain, but I would love him to see more of him. I don't think we got enough of him. I would love him to see him in this movie. We see him slowly go insane, and then him being the main villain of Iron Man 2, I think would have worked a lot better for this movie. The final action sequence though, with him fighting Ironmonger, it's great. It's not the best. It's kind of a forgettable fight scene, but for what it is, I do enjoy this movie for an awful amount. And then coming in number 1, I have Iron Man 3. Now, this is a very controversial pick. A lot of people would even have this as number 2 or even number 3 because this movie is hated among people. I understand why people hate it. They don't really like the Mandarin twist, the fact that we don't really get to see a lot of Iron Man. It's majority of it Tony Stark, but I just love this movie. I think Tony Stark quipping back and forth with the kid, Tony Stark in general, I think this is the best he's ever been at the stage we are at now with Iron Man 3. I just love Tony Stark in this role, or Robert Downey Jr. in the role of Tony Stark. I love the final action sequences. The final action sequence in this movie is the best final action sequence of all the Iron Man movies. All the different suits, Aldrich Killian. I think he's a bit of a letdown from where the Mandarin was, but I still think he's the best Iron Man villain in this franchise. I just think he's completely different. He's not using an Iron Man armor, and I just like him in the role. I like Guy Pearce in the role. I think the Shane Black dialogue works really well, especially with given Robert Downey Jr. I think he just works really well with that. I think the emotion hits, especially at the end of the movie. Pepper Potts, this is the best she's been in the Iron Man franchise. If you've been watching my review series, you know that I'm not a fan of Pepper Potts, but this is the best she's been in the entire franchise. And for all that reason, I do have Iron Man 3 coming in at number 1. So that's my ranking of all 3 of the Iron Man movies. Make sure you let me know your ranking in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section down below. Click the subscribe button as well if you want to see more Marvel content from me in the future. Just on Saturday, I dropped my review for Black Panther. This Friday, I'll be dropping my review for Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, be the following week. But I have a whole playlist I'll leave right up here to all my MCU movie reviews at the moment. So if you want to see that, click right here, right now. And as always, thanks for watching.